top, to the top. Ain't never gonna stop. Never gonna keep me down. Never wanna stand down. Destiny is calling me. You're down in history. Every day I fight to be legendary.
Oh, my neighbors love me. What's up, man?
I thought you were gonna listen to the whole song there for a second.
Skillet is one of my favorite bands. Love Skillet.
Yeah, they have some good stuff. Huh? I mean, it's been, what, since January?
Early
Since
February, I think.
Yeah. So, I mean, we got a lot to cover, but not a whole lot to say about, each individual race. But, we'll just kind of circle back to before the season started. Not that I went back and listened to our predictions or anything, but you think you got, like, what was your opinion coming into the season, expectations wise?
Well, the title of the podcast here is something with egos. I thought I would be a front runner, and I mean I have been. But the sad part about this season so far, at least for me, is that I've changed my expectations on how to race. And I mean, I still race everybody the same way I always have, but it's been difficult. Like, I go into every race now with no expectations. And like it's made me become less upset during the races, which I mean is okay. But last season, once I went on my run and knew that I could, be a winner at almost every track, like I came into this season with that mindset, and with all the cautions and issues that we've been having, I mean, I've won 3 races, so I'm not complaining that I haven't been doing well, but I haven't been racing the way I want to be racing. I would rather be battling you or Field or True or Shovel, Typical, anybody, on a long run and make it a strategy race rather than, overtime finishes week after week after week. And it's frustrating. And I'm hoping that it could change here pretty quickly. But anything from you on how your season has been so far?
I mean, I thought coming into the year that it would probably be kind of rough, for a few races. That's the way it's been. Yeah, everyone gets super excited for the first race of the year. It's Daytona, and since we run the full length NASCAR season, it's like, you and I both, we took a break over the winter, so came Daytona 500 time, it was like super excited and all that. But we'll get into the races. But yeah, I mean, we're both tied 3 wins apiece, which out of 11, with the two of us, we've won over 50%. I'm happy with 3 wins. I feel like there's a couple that I could have put myself in a better position to win the race. Vegas was one of those for me, just because it's one of my better tracks. But at the time, it was trying to defend, Typical when I had 2 teammates in front of me. So that was one of them. But other than that, like the first 2 races were very rough for me.
Mm-hmm.
But since I don't think I finished worse than 5th, so the consistency has been exactly where I'd like it to be. So I can't complain at all so far.
Right. I mean, I'm the same way. I've been pretty consistent. Just looking back at the points, I don't have the point standings here to look to see what they are exactly, but there was a really rough patch in the season at Phoenix where I just felt like I needed to just leave. And if I finally got up to third place when I backed out, so that tells you how frustrated I was at that point. But I
You
could
you have a 1 point lead over typical.
Oh, okay. So if I wouldn't have backed out of that race, I could be up by 20 points right now. It's been a consistent year by me, but it's just our races are different than what I'm used to, and
Yeah.
what the league is normally used to, and that's the most frustrating part for me. But consistency wise, speed wise, racecraft wise, personally, I mean, I'm right there where I want to be. I mean, I can always improve. I feel like everybody can always improve, but excuse me. But no, what have you any surprise finishers for you this from the first 11 races of the season?
Uh, like most surprising race or
Uh,
anything?
okay, both race and race winner. So I'll just quick go down the list here: Daytona Perky, Auto Club Me, Vegas Field, Phoenix Typical, Atlanta U, Road America Me, Richmond U, Bristol Typical, Martinsville Me, Dega U, and Dover KB.
Uh, I mean, out of those, I would say for the race winner, I would say KB's kind of surprised me the most, just because of the track that we're on.
Hmm.
Um, I've raced with him, at every track multiple times. He knows how to run Dover. I would say I would not have been surprised if he was, top seven, even like, fourth, fifth, or whatever. But the way that the cautions kept falling at the end of the race, you either had to make a decision that you were hoping on more cautions and you had enough tires left, with 2 or 3 laps to go to hold off anyone, but um, he certainly closed it out last weekend for
Hmm.
sure. I, my tires are gone. He had a great run on me. I let him go, and I didn't really think he was going to run you down, but he did, and um, I was just holding on and looking to see if what was going to happen in turn three on the last lap. But it was yeah,
Oh,
it
I
was it
watched. I
was a
re.
surprising win, but it was a good one.
Yeah, I rewatched your stream from that race, and I heard the "Go KB" or "Get 'em KB" or whatever you were saying. It's like, oh, all right, I see how it is. But no, he came up off of turn two. I mean, we had a plan going into that last restart, and it worked out exactly how we thought it was going to go. And KB at the time said he was content with second, and I mean, I wasn't, saying that I was going to win. I had a good feeling that I was going to win, but anybody else, I mean, even you, I would have blocked very aggressively going down that backstretch off of two. And since he was a teammate and a good buddy of mine, as well as one of yours as well, I decided to give him a lane and make a race of it, and I overshot turn three and drifted way up the track, but it wouldn't have mattered. Even if I did hold him down, he had better tires than I did, and he got a great run off of turn four, and super proud of KB for that win. He hasn't had one since his first race of his FRR career at Daytona. That was a couple of seasons ago, so was really happy to see him get that win. Yeah, I mean, surprise finish and winner. I mean, I'm right there with you at Dover. Daytona was perky, to see him go back to back. He won the last was that the opening race of the playoffs last year for us?
Yeah.
Yeah, so he won that race, and then he won the opening race this season. So that was really cool to see him go back to back. Never really thought of him as a good super speedway racer, but I mean he's proven me wrong. So, oh, I know something that we could talk about. So team wise, how do you think your team personally has been performing? Overperforming, underperforming? How you guys are gelling together, and just anything like that.
Well, I just want to say this whole team thing is BS. That's about my only opinion on it because one team is severely stacked over all the others.
Damn
But
JGR.
yeah, um, I mean, I don't really have any complaints on our team. Field and I are sitting third and fourth in points. That's pretty much to be expected. At least us be, in the top five, I would say. Everyone, I have the points pulled up too if you
Oh,
need like
okay, cool.
um, stuff. I'm just kind of looking at it, but I mean, I feel like Hendrick's done well. It's just we've we have up to three guys that at any point in time struggle with lag issues
Mm-hmm.
and they have to go to the back. But I mean, Swamp has probably been bit by that more than anyone else on Hendrick, and he's still 14th in points
Yeah.
somehow. Um, but the first couple races, it was a little rough for him, but I feel like he's starting to find a groove. He's doing well in my opinion. Hopefully his internet stuff starts to figure it out, but he's coached up very well. Field and I we don't have anything to hide with our setups and all that, so we're helping guys out. And Hurricane finished second at Vegas. Since then, he's had a rough go of it, but very respectful driver and racer. And he's had a couple lag issues there for a few races too. And J Lamb, we talked before our practice tonight. He just coming off us as a league, possibly coming off of our worst race of the season. He somehow managed to have his best race so far in the league. So I was really happy for him for that. He's another guy every week's like, J Lamb, you gotta go back, you're lagging,
Mm-hmm.
It sucks having to do that almost every week, couple times a race, but
Yeah.
he's stuck it out. He hasn't been discouraged, and I think he was eighth. So with all the carnage and stuff, he was able to get through there, and he was even running well at the beginning of the race at Talladega as well. So I think he's learning. He's we're all helping each other with setups and stuff, and I think that's really helping him to progress.
Mm-hmm.
And if any of those guys, if they can string together a strong 3 to 5 race stretch, that could really boost them up into the playoff contention.
Right. And I don't mean to cut you off, but I do have to
Yeah.
give a quick shout out to J Lamb. I think I don't even remember what I ate for breakfast yesterday, but let alone where I qualified for Dover. I can't remember if I got pole or if I got second, but I'm pretty sure J Lamb qualified third, and he was running behind me there for a little while, and I had no complaints. I mean, I haven't had any complaints against any Hendrick drivers this season, first and foremost, but the the speed that he had at Dover really surprised me, and it was really good to see that him working a lot this season so far has been paying off. So just a quick shout out for him.
Yeah, and then we had Swerve, and then we traded him well, we swapped Swerve for Grizzly, who hasn't made a start yet for Hendrick, but
Yes,
I
he
know.
has. Martinsville.
Oh, yes, he did. I was not here for that race, so I forgot. Um, so he's made one start, which he ran fairly strong in that race from what I watched, but he's having conflicts with work, so he can't really make it, uh, off and on. But I've raced him, a few times before. He's fast, um, and I think he will be, once he can get his schedule figured out. So that should give us at least three guys, who could be potential top five finishers, you know, each week or every other week, and then we're trying to get everyone else on the same page.
Right.
Um, but yeah, the whole points thing, it's kind of bit us. I think our best race was not Atlanta. Maybe it was probably Vegas, but kind of inconsistent on the points. But we're all chasing SHR.
Speaking of three players, to be a top five finisher every week, yeah, I mean, I got super lucky with the guys that I got on my team. I feel kind of spoiled, but also, it hasn't turned out this way, but I thought going into the season, like, okay, we're all pretty fast and, we're all able to win races and be in contention. So I didn't really know how well we were going to gel together. I knew Perky and I were fine. Wasn't sure about Typical. That was probably my number one concern was Typical. And it wasn't anything against him. It's just I never had really worked with him in prior races. And, to see how he's worked with me and vice versa, I had a conversation with him last week. Yeah, last week, and just told him I was super proud of him for, we're kind of putting our egos aside, and if one person has the better car, let that person lead and pull the other guy around, and two makes better than one. So it's been great working with him. Perky, he hasn't made, I don't think he's made one practice race this season.
Nope.
So he's got to start in the back every single week, and kudos to him. I mean, he makes his way through the pack every single week and finds his way up to the top five almost every single week. And but I just don't get to race with him all that often. And KB, I've good friends with him, but I've never got the chance to work with him since he's always been on Hendrick. So wasn't I was pretty sure that was going to work out okay, and it has. Racer Rick, the only new guy on the team, into the league. He's been putting in a lot of work, and just like J Lamb this past week. I mean, Racer Rick came home fourth. So, and then he had a stage win at Dega 2 weeks ago. So super proud of him. And, it's been frustrating for him. And I mean, as well as everybody, but it's been frustrating for him because he's had to persevere through a lot of issues. But to come back from those issues and, get a stage win and, finish fourth at Dover with the race that we had, is really cool to see. And then King G, always an anchor, here every week pretty much, and great dude. I pretty much knew SHR was going to work out other than, points wise. I just didn't know how well we would all gel together. And, it's turning out great. So, it's amazing to see the point standings, and we've been super consistent. I think you got the points up. Are we the only team that scored over 100 points in every race? Yeah. So the consistency's there, which I mean, going back to typical, last season he was fast. He was really fast, but he just made a couple of mistakes here and there that hurt his finishes and cost him some points. And this season, I've really been telling him, coaching him through races and telling him if I'm behind him that I'm just going to stay put and I'm not going to worry, make him worry about messing up. Just take some deep breaths and we're on a Sunday drive and that's it. And then we'll race when we have to race. Um, but underwhelming expectations or overwhelming expectations for this league so far this season?
I think we're still. It's frustrating at this point because we have run 11 races and we basically just had our worst race of the season. I'd say Daytona was pretty bad there's a lot of cautions there. I don't remember how many were at Auto Club.
We had quite a few at Auto Club.
But we're coming into a stretch where it's Dover, Kansas, and Darlington, where basically all three of those are a single lane track. And I say this that we had a poor race at Dover because we certainly did. I don't know how many cautions we had, but
I think it was 17. I'm pretty sure it was 17. True put that number out there. I don't know if it's right or wrong, but he said 17, which I don't. Yeah. I think there was 17.
So, I mean, and even like the short track races that we had earlier in the year, I missed Bristol and Martinsville, but Richmond, we didn't have really any cautions. I mean, we probably had like 3 or 4, but people were giving each other room. They had respect and stuff. But then we get to Dover, and people are diving it down in the corner, and then people getting put in the wall off of the corner, and then they bounce off of it right back down into the entire field.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't really see that improving. Kansas might be better because we are literally riding the wall.
Mm-hmm.
But Darlington, I almost feel like you and I might be the lucky ones since we won't be racing that. But Darlington could be very ugly as well if people don't respect each other. And the reason I say, I mean, when I think of Dover, I compare that to the Winter Series race, which basically held all the Pro League drivers.
Mm-hmm.
But they allowed 24 of us into that race. And I think our longest green flag stretch was maybe 5 laps. And it was like a 60 lap race. So, and those are like should be the most talented drivers on the game. But we get in this bubble where the egos pop up and, they got to pinch people down. They got to shove their nose in there every little run that they get and all this other stuff. And we got to get that straightened out to where sometimes you just got to suck it up and swallow it. You're not going to win every race. That's already very evident. You won what, like 14 races last year?
12.
Yeah, whatever.
Who's counting?
I mean, but at this point, you could still go on a hell of a run here, but you're already, basically behind just because of the consistent, competitors that keep showing up each week. So, I mean, and even for me, I think we were, I think we asked each other, expect how many wins we thought we might have. I think I had 7 last year, 7 or 8,
6.
and
Who's counting?
I had more than 6.
You had
I had more
6.
than
You had
6.
6.
That's it. Now I
Mm-hmm.
feel like I didn't do shit last year.
Well. Okay, so
Okay, well, anyway, I
yeah,
thought, expectations, like, it's going to be harder to win races this year probably than any other season that we've been a part of.
right. Which is true.
But
Which has been true.
yeah, so I mean, getting the talent here is fine. It's just we're still having issues with racing each other, but we're trying to. It's mostly adapting these new guys to a new way that they need to race.
So going off of that, I guess the one thing that I want to ask is if you could say something, like if you were speaking to each driver face to face right now, like what would you've been doing this a long time and you know what you're doing, you know what you're talking about. What would you say to them to help each that their personal race as well as the entire league as a whole each week?
Don't be an idiot.
Yeah.
I mean, like, be smarter. Use your brain. Like, that's some of these accidents that we have. It literally comes down to, like, would you drive your personal car the way that you just drove this thing? Like, do you use your mirrors in real life? The same thing. This is not an actual car. Like, there's no repercussions for wrecking a virtual car. But, when we were battling a certain driver for the lead last week and he decides to stop halfway down the straightaway with a car on his bumper, you gotta be smart.
Yeah.
Like, there's ways, so many easier ways, and you gotta be put in certain situations to know this. Some of them. But
Clashin says if you suck, practice more.
I mean, that's basically what I'm saying. Like, I mean, you don't have to be obsessed with the game and just play it, but you kind of have to put yourself in situations to learn a better way to do it. Like if I was in Staggering's situation, I would have let you go. Like, you had position down the straightaway, and if his goal was to let me go and get in behind, you take it down in turn 1, you take it probably in the 3rd lane, give us both room, cut it down through the center, and you can be at least close to my bumper exiting 2, and you're not causing, like, it was certainly unintentional the way he did it, but it was kind of pointless in how it happened because it ended up causing another caution.
And
that didn't need to happen.
I'll add something here. So like, I'm not calling anybody out. I'm actually calling the entire league out on this. And you said this to me a while ago, and I don't think there has been a more true statement that I have heard about this season than what you have always said. People don't know how to pass, and they don't know how to get past. And that's huge. Like, for me, it's all about anticipation and anticipating what this guy is going to do, knowing where I'm going to go if he makes this move and being ready for it. And people just seem like they want to take every position that they can get and not give anything away. And it's super frustrating because the people that do work on their cars and have worked on their cars, for this season and prior seasons past, they don't get to show off what their car really is, and it's super frustrating. You know, you could have a great long run car, but it's never going to show because we have 30 cautions a frickin' race. So something needs to change here, and I don't know what you and I can do or say, to be completely honest, to change that, because people have egos, people have their own mindsets, and they're going to do what they want to do at the end of the day. We don't have a crew chief. We're not doing this for money. We're not going to get fined. Yes, we may have a drive-through, or might have a points deduction at the end of the week, but I mean, we've been doing that for multiple weeks now, and look what happened last week. So I don't know. I mean, people got to really get their shit together here, and I'm not saying I'm perfect, because I'm not. You're not. Nobody is. And we all make mistakes. Mistakes are going to happen, but this BS that has been FRR this entire season is bullshit, and it needs to change. There's Favre's rant of the day. On to you.
I just think, I mean, True's done a good job in terms of.
Well, I'll finish that for. Oh, there he is. Okay.
Yeah,
What
I got you.
happened?
Oh, it said I couldn't talk to you anymore.
Oh, okay.
I
Go on.
got you now. So I was saying about, we weren't expecting Mucka to walk away when he did. And True's tried to give everyone the benefit of the doubt, which I do not blame him, because I would be the same way.
Mm-hmm.
If someone tells me, and if I don't know them very well, and they're like, oh yeah, I'll work on it and I'll get better, I'll be like, okay. But some of them, they're just putting themselves in the same situation multiple times. And now that we are on relaxed cautions, there's a couple times at Dover last week where you could see people bounce up off the wall, and I don't remember who it was. I think I was watching Field Filler's stream, and I watched someone go up in the center of the corner. They hit the wall, and somehow they ended all the way up in the bottom lane and caused a wreck and a caution. There is not even close to a glitch in any center of the turn at Dover that would send you from the wall all the way down towards the apron when you know there are cars down there. So there was a couple times I thought there was a few intentionals once they knew that they were in trouble. So I was not happy about that, but it's just that we've been on the game. Certain tracks, if you get out of position coming off the corner, you're going to get loose. It doesn't matter how good your car drives. But people try to push the issue anyway. And what I was leading to is that I think individual captains, they just got to be harsher, if the situation calls for it. I'm not a captain like I was a couple seasons ago, but Field allows me to speak my mind in our chat, if I have anything to say, and I've been vocal in our season chats early in the season, just saying that we got to practice patience and all that, but making sure the car is right, not putting yourself in stupid situations, and don't do anything to get yourself penalized. And we're starting to see some people who, they normally run at the front, and then you stick them at the back, and then they're not quite as great at passing cars as their perception is.
Mm-hmm.
And we're starting to see some penalties dished out to some of guys higher in points. And if that's what they got to do, I'm all for it. Like there's a way to do it. Like at one point I got sent to the back at Dover, you know, from something that wasn't of my doing, but through all the cautions, I drove from like 17th up to 5th without touching anybody. And a couple of them, I know for sure, they gave me more room because they knew that I flew up to them. And, you know, that's always appreciated. At certain times in the race, that's what you got to do.
And that goes for anybody, not just for you, not just for me, not just for the front runners. I feel like that's just race awareness and, you know, and not getting in people's way when they are faster than you. Because then that's when the wrecks happen. That's when the cautions come out. Clashin, I got to give a quick shout out to Clashin. He has watched every single podcast of ours live. So this is our third one. So appreciate you, Clashin, for tuning in. But he said everyone wants to be Ross Chastain now, and I mean he couldn't be more right. It's just frustrating because I really thought, especially after last season, not even for me winning a championship, just from how the race aspect of the end of last season went. I really thought this season was going to be really good. Like you said, the first couple of races of each season are always normally a shit show, but after 4 or 5 races, it cleans right up, and then we're down to 1, maybe 2 cautions a race. And it's been the complete opposite of that. And it's just been frustrating. You know, it's sad to be sitting here and almost complaining on our podcast about how this season has gone, because it's not the way I wanted it to go. It's probably not the way anyone wanted it to go. The one thing that I would say that everybody could take a step back, look in the mirror, and say, you know, maybe I should do that, is take some advice, especially from the people that know what they're doing. And that's where, like you said, the egos will come out to play, and they're going to do what they want to do at the end of the day. You know, I've tried giving multiple people some advice throughout the season, and I get argued for it. And, you know, it starts a debate on why they're not doing anything wrong. And, you know, I mean, great, do what you're used to. But I'm just trying to make this league, as well as, you know, other people are trying to make this league back to what it is. And the one thing that I have said for the last couple of weeks is, you know, True has been doing a great job. You know, don't get me wrong. But I've noticed that we are almost changing the fabric of FRR to fit this new, you know, group of drivers. And from what we've always ran, we've always used to run manual cautions, and just we were used to racing a certain way. And now, because we have all these new people in here that aren't used to they should be used to, since we're 11 races in, but they're not used to how we race. Now we got to change the entire league from what it has been for the last multiple years, even before I was in here, before you were in here, to fit their driving. No, I call bullshit. I won't do it. You know, if it's going to better the league, of course I will do it. But I'm just tired of having to deal with this every single week, because I don't get to race how I want to race.
Yeah, I agree with you. So one of the things I've never liked about the cautions in this game is, I mean, if it's bad enough, yeah, it's gotta call a caution. But with the manuals, 2 or more cars, you know, 3 or more cars, I've always liked that rule, because if someone messes up sometimes it's like, okay, it's one car, we're going to keep going, everyone else got through it. It was their mistake. That's kind of how it goes. Um, but then you get the relaxed cautions, and we're to this before, I felt like the two-car thing was getting very abused. Um, from my standpoint, as soon as I hear someone mention like, oh, that might be a caution, I'm referencing the track map in at the bottom of our screen to see how many dots, are ping-ponging whatever part of the track they're on. There's been multiple times earlier in the season where you got one car that spun, and we're calling a caution because they touched the door of somebody else, and they're getting bailed out for that. When a couple of times when I ran in a league with Taddy, when they try to start like at the bottom, we started in trucks group C, and then we had to work our way up. They had 0 cautions, like for no reason. No reason in the race. So if you wrecked and you took 5 people with you, you're not getting a caution no matter what. And at the cup level, which we're supposed to be the best, I think this league is still the best. But some the people that constantly wreck, they get bailed out by cautions,
Mm-hmm.
and then they don't learn that. Well, if I if I keep messing up and I can't catch up, then I'm gonna have to get better. Well, look at that. We fixed an issue.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's got, like, some people it has to be that way because, like you said, with arguing, you can give out a tip and be like, "Oh, I've always driven this way." And like, yeah, you've always sucked. There's a reason why you're causing 50% of the wrecks.
Yeah.
Like, don't tell me you've been doing this for years, because you've probably been wrecking people for years.
Right.
And if someone came up to me and told me that I was doing something wrong, usually, if it's me, I'm gonna know I'm doing something wrong to begin with, but sometimes I don't know what it is. And I can reference road course racing here because you're better at them than I am. You can tell me like, oh, hey, say you're riding behind me and you're trying to help me out, like pick up a tenth or two. If you tell me I'm driving in too deep in a corner, then that's all I've done at that track since this game came out, and all of a sudden you're like, hey, you need to back it up. You can cut your left front tire in this spot and it'll grip up better and you'll gain like 2/10 immediately. I would be an idiot to not be like, well, I've always done it this way. I'm okay with being slower.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't make any sense. And I'm going through that now with Gran Turismo 7 because I run those F1 cars on Mondays now, and all those tracks I've never freaking seen in my life. So I'm like riding behind people, trying to figure out these apexes and where to gain time, and it's just, you gotta be willing to listen. It's different coming from, like, you and I are used to winning in this league, but the fact that you're willing to send whatever setup to anybody for whatever reason, like, some people just need to turn it off and just listen and try to apply it.
Right. Well, we'll see what happens here in the next couple of weeks. Otherwise, spoiler alert, there will be some changes being made. So if any of y'all from FRR are listening or going to be listening, all I can say is get your shit together. And I'm
We
just gonna
love
leave
you.
it. We love you, yes. but oh
Bad
shit,
cop, good cop.
shit. Speaking of which, we're gonna take 2 seconds here for station identification. Um, we haven't brought this up yet. This podcast has been brought to you by our love of Shovelhead. We cannot let that go unnoticed. Um, I'm really surprised that Flash didn't bring that up, but Shovelhead, we love you, buddy. Always will. Um, but I,
I
on
was
a
playing
lighter
hard to get this time, and you just let him have it.
note, on a lighter note, man, I get to meet you in shit
A week from
a
today.
week. Yeah, I'll be at your place in a week. Getting to go to Darlington with you and meeting True Death Pittman. I think there's one more going.
And Chase will be there.
Chase, yeah. Well, Chase, yeah. So that'll be really cool to get to meet all of you guys at the same time. Might get to see, possibly, I have a 2-hour layover. Maybe we'll get to see King G and meet him for a couple of minutes at the airport. Him and I have been talking, so getting a couple of people out of the way in one trip, but really looking forward to seeing Darlington and being there. And it's always been it's been between that and the Coke 600 on which race I'm going to go to first. And I asked you a couple of months back if you wanted to go, and you said sure. So Darlington is, like I said, been a bucket list race of mine. And you and I have been talking the last week or so about some of these throwback schemes that are going to be there, and it'll be really, really, really cool to see. If any of y'all have any questions about NASCAR from like the 1700s, Flash will know what happened at Darlington on lap 2 between the 5 car and the 13 car. Like, dude is a human encyclopedia about NASCAR. But no, dude, just really looking forward to meeting you. And I asked you if we could go-kart racing the day that I get there. It's going to be a quick visit, but looking forward to trying to beat you at that too. I'm sure that'll be side by side like we do it on here. But just looking forward to getting to meet you and your wife and everyone else down there.
Yeah, I think it'll be a good time. Yeah, we get to see, now that they run at Darlington twice a year again. Some people do the throwback in the spring, some do it in the fall. And I'm glad that we get to see a lot of the cool schemes. I thought last year, was probably the best one yet. With all of those, I thought the Suarez and Chastain Coca-Cola cars were like the coolest ones that any team has come up with. And then a lot of the teams this year, they've kind of either matched it or gone above it.
Favorite scheme?
Man, I don't even remember them all, to be honest with you, but I'm always very curious to see what the 24 team comes up with every year, just because I was such a big Jeff Gordon fan. And obviously, like, the Rainbow Warrior car has been shown 2 or 3 times over the last few years. But I completely forgot about that Chrome Illusion paint scheme that he drove in the All-Star race for the 50th anniversary of NASCAR. And when I saw that, because usually the one everyone's asking for is the T-Rex. And when I saw that, I was like, man, I completely forgot about that. That was such a cool car. That'll probably be mine. I Now that I'm older, I really appreciate the greatness that was Bill Elliott when he drove. I mean, his prime was in the 80s. I was not born yet. Um, but I grew up, he drove that McDonald's car, and my mom was a huge fan of his when I was young. And I really like that Chase is running the 2001 through 2003 scheme that he drove for Ray Evernham. It's plain, it's just red, but I think
That
it's
9
cool.
font is cool.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly outdoes all of Chase's prior throwback schemes. I feel like he always has one of the worst ones. But I really think that one would be a nice change up. Dang. I did like Chastain's throwing it back to Dale Jarrett. He always had some good ones. That UPS scheme in 2001 was nice.
Yep.
Harrison's throwing it back to Jeff Burton from like 97, I think.
Yep. I just saw that one today for the first time.
Yeah, when Jeff won one of his Darlington races. Yeah, it's just gonna be really cool. It's a nice track. I think you'll be surprised. Like some of these tracks, you're thinking like, oh yeah, it's gotta be like the coolest spot ever. All this and that. It's like Darlington is just there. You know, it's like, oh, you just drive along and there's literally nothing. You're like, oh, what's this weird track like right next to the road?
Road America's like that here too in Wisconsin. My favorite paint scheme for this coming week, oh, not this weekend, but next weekend will probably be, Wisconsin boy, love me some Matt Kenseth. Will probably be Christopher Bell's throwback to, I believe it's 2003. I mean, it's a DeWalt paint scheme. I mean, he still runs a DeWalt paint scheme, but it's Kenseth's scheme.
Yep.
And then Suarez has a cool one. I think he's running an old Quaker State. Yeah. And then Joey Logano actually has a pretty cool one, an all red Penzo? I can't remember which one that is. I that was like the first one that I saw a couple weeks back. But I just remember, no, he's running like a 3-color.
Yeah, he's throwing it back to Mark Donahue.
Yeah.
Because he was the first ever guy to drive for Penske.
Okay.
This was like back in the 70s.
Any predictions for that race?
Oh man. I mean, Logano won this race a year ago.
Because he punted Byron.
I don't who won the playoff race.
Eric Jones.
That's right. Oh, shoot. I mean, Denny Hamlin and Truex are always good there. Larson's been fast. It's just like with this new car, it's kind of like, Mark Donahue, Riverside 1973 is the Logano's throwback. Like usually through practice, and if they qualify well, you can tell like who's going to be strong in the race, which kind of really don't like the predictability anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Out of like what it used to be, but
that's why we go back in the middle of the week to watch races from the 90s.
I know, right? You could like back in even the early 2000s, you could be 25th in practice, but you could have the greatest long run car like ever assembled.
Mm-hmm.
But it wouldn't show up on a speed chart. Now it's if you don't have top end speed on lap 1, you ain't gonna pass anyone by lap 30. But that's a topic for probably the next one. But
One quick question.
I'll stick with Truex though.
Okay.
I'd pick him as my favorite.
Okay. I'm gonna go out on a limb here for number 3 of the year, Kyle Busch. He's running.
Darlington.
Yeah, he's running Tyler Reddick's car. He was actually was that last year or no, it was 2 years ago in the playoff race. I think he blew a motor and he was running he might have been leading most of that race if I'm not mistaken. Or at least, top 2 or 3. And Tyler Reddick had a great car there last year. And he's driving the 8, so I could see Kyle Busch pulling it off. Clashin thinks the same as me, as I didn't even read that before I said Kyle Busch. But one more quick topic, and then we can cut her off. But you and I were talking a lot as well, as with KB and Donnie about the NFL draft, and I for your sake, I wanted them to take C.J. Stroud. You're a huge Ohio State fan, and to be able, and you guys need a quarterback bad, and to see that happen would have been really cool. It ended up not happening, and once Stroud was off the board, I think I may have mentioned it once before the draft even started, but I just said Anthony Richardson, they're going to reach for him. And then you kind of got pissed off, so I kept saying it more and more and more and more. And then I tried calling you right as the Colts were picking, and you didn't answer. And dude, when they picked Anthony Richardson, I just about lost it. And I think he could be a very, very good quarterback, but just the sample size is not there. Like the comparison that everyone was saying was Cam Newton out of Auburn. But Cam Newton went off in his, last year of college.
His only season, yeah.
Right. He went off. And Anthony Richardson was on a 500 team, if they even were 500, and was, what are your opinions on why do you think they selected him, and what are your expectations for him?
All right. So I really wanted Stroud because clearly I watched every game that he started at Ohio State. I'm happy for him, but the Texans do not have a strong track record throughout their franchise history, and I don't want to see another Ohio State quarterback essentially fail due to not having someone coach him up.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll see with that. I was skeptical. I don't really put much time into observing like the combine or anything like that because it's just not anywhere close to a game situation.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't watch him at all at Florida. I watched some highlights as well as, Will Levis just to see who we might end up with. It was going to be, I knew Bryce Young was going to be off the table. So, but since they drafted him, they say he has an amazing attitude. He clearly had, one of the best performances that the combine's ever seen from a quarterback,
Mm-hmm.
which is also encouraging. And it seems like, he's very much willing to put in the work. We'll see what happens, once he takes some hits, because everyone can say the perfect stuff until they get hit in the face. But so what the struggles that I had with the Colts, basically since Phillip Rivers retired, and I feel like Rivers covered up a lot of the deficiencies that the team had. Frank Reich and the people that he brought in to coach, they can be great people all they want. That's all that the players ever said. And it was very apparent when he got fired that all the players were upset because he's such a nice guy, this and that. Well, you get paid millions of dollars a year to coach, not be everyone's best friend. And I don't know what happened, but we went from basically a playoff team, other than Wentz's magical performances in the last 2 games of that season, to one of the worst teams in the league with the same roster and a different quarterback. Like, something down the line was completely not being done, attention to details not being taken care of, all this stuff, failure to game plan, whatever it was. It just seemed that it was a very unenthusiastic team, and I'm not used to seeing that from the Colts. Growing up watching literally Hall of Famers play, like Peyton Manning and Marvin Harrison. This new coach, I wouldn't say high expectations, but based off of what I've heard about him, he is very analytical.
Who did you guys get?
As the Eagles offensive coordinator.
Oh, Steichen. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. He hammers fundamentals, and I like that because that's the type of person I would be if I was a football coach. That's how I approach racing, is that you got to do the easier stuff really well. That's how you get that much better. And I think he's going to surround that team with some really good coaches, and I don't know about playoff or even, they might be able to contend for a division because Tennessee's kind of a broken team suddenly, like Colts are. Texans, I just put a question mark next to their team.
Yeah.
You don't know if they're going to win 8 or 9 games or
that
3
entire
games.
Division to me
But
is a wild card. Other than
it's up for
possibly
grabs.
Jacksonville is probably the leading favorite going into the season.
Well, even then, Lawrence in the second half of the season last year, he kind of put it together, but he hasn't been consistent in his first 2 seasons either. Might have the best defense out of all 4 teams, which they should. They've had the number 1 pick 8 out of the last 10 years. I'm exaggerating, but that's how garbage they've been. But yeah, if all they gotta do is come out and play better and shoot, if they can go try to shoot for 3-3 or get to 4-2 division record, they might have a shot at a playoff berth. But maybe with a rookie quarterback. But until I see him throw some passes in an actual game to really see the touch he has on the ball and the accuracy and the development that Alec Pierce has made after 1 year, and Pittman, and then we got Josh Downs, who's supposedly going to make people pay for making him slide 70 picks. But I'm always going to be excited at the start of the season. But
one last question for you regarding the Colts. What happened to Quentin Nelson last season? It was pretty comical talking to you throughout the year on how, he is an all-pro. First team all-pro offensive lineman. Yes.
4-time.
And he's been in the league how many years? 5? 6?
His first 4 seasons, he was first team all-pro.
Yeah, and then what happened last year?
I literally think it's just a lack of coaching. It's even the best quarterbacks need a coach. For football is a completely different game than basketball. LeBron can go out there with 4 other players, and he can kind of direct plays, this and that. A quarterback has 10 other guys on the same side of the ball, but the only thing with basketball is all 5 of those guys can score points.
Mm-hmm.
In football, you got 5 guys that better protect your ass, one dude that needs to run, and the other 3 to 4 got to be on the same page to run the routes, and you got to be able to put the ball on the money. Like,
Right.
you know, you always see Tom Brady, he was getting into it with Josh McDaniels and this and that, and, you know, even Peyton was, you know, he would get into it with,
Tony.
yeah, we had Tony Dungy, and it was something more. Tom Moore was our OC, like, way back in the day. Like, they got to have someone in their ear, too, to correct their mistakes, because they're not going to do it all. So, it's same thing with linemen. You know, if their techniques are being taught wrong, because, you know, they're taught, they have, you know, A, B, and C gaps that they have to protect, and if they're running the ball, usually the center is either sliding down to the gap where the nose tackle is or the nearest defensive tackle. The guard's got to get his ass up and go. And if he was doing something wrong and their only feedback was like, "Oh, you're doing a good job, man. You'll get it." Everyone's going to get worse.
Right.
You know, so I just think that he's a great player. Like, I'm really glad that we got him, but there was multiple times he was getting blitzed and he got put on his ass, and I had never seen that before. So I'm hoping that they are watching a lot of last year's film and they're like, well, this is what we're doing different this year.
Right.
And I hope it works.
But no, so you know,
Tell me
seeing
about the Packers.
Well, seeing Rodgers in green is a very familiar sight. Very. It's kind of comical because, you know, the media, I will agree. I mean, the media puts shit out there that is not true. I mean, that goes for sports, that goes for politics, that goes for everything. But, you know, they were saying that Rodgers, like, he wouldn't agree to go to the Jets until they picked up some of the guys that he wants. Like, he gave them a checklist is what the word was. Rodgers came back on the McAfee show a couple of days later and said, no, that's not true. When all in reality, it was true. You know, he complained so long about how the Packers never went and got him any weapons. Ever. And he goes to the Jets. He brings in Alan Lazard. He brings in Randall Cobb. He brings in who was Billy Turner, the right tackle that we had not this past year but the season prior. So he's bringing in all these guys. He wants Mercedes Lewis, but Mercedes Lewis came out and said, no, I don't want to go to New York. Fuck, I'll go back to Green Bay. And I don't know. I mean, they have a better defense, I believe, than Green Bay, and that showed last season. So I feel like that, you know, could be in their favor, but, you know, as, you know, anybody could see, the NFC North was Rodgers' division. And he was obviously the top quarterback in our division. Now you go to a division with Tua, Josh Allen, who am I missing? Well, anyway, AFC in general, Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes. I mean, you're going against all these top-notch quarterbacks, and in the NFC, you got Aaron Rodgers. Maybe throw Dak Prescott into that conversation. Maybe. And I think he's going to go there, and they're not going to make the playoffs. And I'm going to laugh.
Really?
Mm-hmm. I don't think... I mean, their defense would have to be probably the best in the league for them to make the playoffs, in my opinion. I just don't think they have enough oomph. I'm not sure when Breece Hall comes back. I know he got hurt somewhere around halfway through the season. I think he tore his ACL, so he's not going to be ready for the season opener. But I honestly don't think they're going to be a playoff team. And going to Green Bay, you know, I'm kind of like you this season. You know, for every year that I've been alive, which is crazy to think about, for 25 years, we go into every football season thinking Super Bowl or bust because we got a Hall of Fame quarterback, first ballot. Like, it's Super Bowl or bust. This is the first year. Okay, maybe we had 1 year with Rodgers in his first year where we were all like, okay, I mean, we give him a year. That's kind of the same attitude everybody has in Green Bay right now of just let's see where it goes. We're not overpaying for him. And you know, instead of signing his fifth-year option, Jordan Love's fifth-year option, the Packers actually made a really smart move. We signed him to an outright contract, a 2-year contract worth the same amount of money as the fifth-year option would have been, but it's less guaranteed money. So say Jordan Love lays an egg over the next 2 years. We will save $8 million in cap if he sucks and we, you know, have to let him go rather than overpaying him for his fifth-year option. So I think that was really smart. You know, it's crazy to think about, but every first-round pick the last 7 years, the Packers have spent on a defensive player. So it's crazy to think about how our defense isn't literally a number one defense in the NFL kind of defense because the talent is there. And the way that Joe Barry, our defensive coordinator, runs these plays where it got a little bit better, you know, getting to the end of last year. But if you watch the Packer games at all, you know, Jair Alexander will literally be 20 yards off of the receiver. And they just don't want to get beat deep. But you can't do that the entire game. No. Joe Barry's scheme is not good. So I feel like if we were to get a new defensive coordinator, our defense would perk up. Offensive expectations, I don't really know. It's a very, very, very young group. We might be the youngest offensive team in the league. You know, Jordan Love's got Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, it's Samori Toure, who are all going to be second-year players. And then you got Jaden Reed, who they just signed or drafted out of Michigan State. And then you have Bo Melton. Who the hell is Bo Melton? Like, they got all these people that are young and so inexperienced that Love is not going to be able to, you know, depend on the Devontae Adams and where they know what they need to do. But on the other hand, you're not going to have the people saying, well, I'm going to do it this way, kind of a mindset. One thing that I am very curious to watch for the last, you know, say 4 years that Matt LaFleur has been the head coach of the Packers and has called plays. For the first time, it's going to be Matt LaFleur's offense. It is not going to be Aaron Rodgers' offense. You know, LaFleur would call plays and Rodgers would say, you know, screw you and go and decide to do whatever he wanted. Which, you know, sometimes that worked out, but on other terms, it didn't. And, you know, looking back at last year when Rodgers got hurt, you know, when Love came into the game during that Eagles game, I mean, it was like seeing the second coming of Christ when Love got in there because it just seemed like the entire offense gelled together. Christian Watson went off. So my thought going into this season is I think the receivers and the offense as a whole is going to gel. Now, is that going to put up points? Maybe. I don't know. I really don't have any expectations for this year. Do I think we'll be a playoff team? No. Like you said about the Colts. If we do make the playoffs, great, but we ain't no Super Bowl or bust team. So I'll be very curious to see what happens. I'm happy with their draft. Was kind of surprised by the Lucas Van Ness pick at 13. I feel like we could have traded back at least to pick number 20 if we were going to take him. Glad we did not reach for a tight end at 13. I mean, Dalton Kincaid is great, but I not a 13th pick. So I am happy to see that they picked up a tight end in round 2 and 3. Kind of really wanted them to draft Darnell Washington out of Georgia because he's another offensive lineman that can catch. Not even a tight end. He's an offensive lineman that can catch. But it'll be interesting to see, man. But I said this wasn't going to be a 2-hour podcast, and it's not going to be. So I think we're going to end it on that note. But as always, man, you know, it's always fun racing against you. And I don't know if it's like this when you get around me, but whenever I, like at Dover, when you and I got side by side during those last couple of cautions, like I sat up in my seat and I mean, I drive the shit out of it even more so than I normally do. Every single time you and I are racing around each other, especially for a stage win or a win. And dude, that stage 1 ending was insane at Dover. But no, any other thoughts that you want to bring up? Otherwise, that's it for me.
No, looking forward to Kansas tomorrow. I'm gonna try not to hit the wall. That's goal number 1, and hopefully I'm either in front of you, which will probably mean I'm the leader, or in position to make a move, you know, late in the race. So I feel like I made some adjustments after practice here that, you know, made the car better. So the rest is up to me, and hopefully we have a good race tomorrow night. I think we can do it.
Yeah. So, well, alrighty. Well, thank you, everyone, for watching live, and that will watch this in the
Later on.
future. Yeah. And Clashin', you're the GOAT, as always. Appreciate you tuning in and commenting. But until then, when are we back? Halfway through the season, whenever that is. A couple months away. But we'll be back after the halfway point of the season to hopefully be more cheerful about the season. But on that note, from Favre and Flash 9, see you guys later.
Later.